everybody, it's the Warhipster here, coming at you with another Contrast Plus painting tutorial, and today we are painting our first of 2026. Yes, we are painting Festus the Leechlord. What a way to kick things off, eh? I mean, just look at him. Absolutely fantastic glow up for a much beloved character. Yeah, let's go with that, shall we? Anyway, a massive thank you goes out to Games Workshop for sending me this one early to build up and paint with all of you, and well, that is exactly what we're going to do, and we're going to jump in and start doing it right now. He's been primed in Wraithbone. We're basically going to start on the, I think it's called Blight, or the big wormy thing, the nightmare underneath him. We're going to get that all done, then we're going to work on him. So, colour we're going to be using first is Seraphim Sepia, and we're going to be applying this over the top of the underside of the big worm. So we're just going to start in here, which is quite nice and simple, because we're just going to apply this over the top of all of it, coming up to the edge where his skin takes over. There, like that. However, things change a little bit around the face. So around the face, we're going to do a little bit of a blend, not too much, because it does fade into the green. But under here, things are nice and simple. Just get that all over. Like that. There we go. Lovely. However, as mentioned, on the underside of his face, basically want to bring it up over the top of that sort of first fold. Like that. Then we're going to wash the brush, touch off the water, and then we're just going to soften that transition just a little bit. Not too much, because when we come to do the green it's a lot more impactful and overpowering there, but don't want to have a hard line underneath it. So with that all done, just whilst we wait for that Seraphim Sepia to fully dry, what we're going to do is, it's going to seem weird as well, but what we're going to do is we're going to take some Briar Queen Chill, and we're going to apply this over top of all the little fleshy parts on the Blight. So it's these little kind of balls, let's go with it, these little balls and boils and the rents in the flesh. So with that all done, our Seraphim Sepia should be dry. So what we're going to do is now going to go over the top of it using some Guilliman Flesh shade. So with that all done, we're not going to beat about the bush any longer. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a roughly 4 parts Creed Camo to 2 parts Lamy Medium mix, or a 2-to-1, depending on how much of it you want to mix. And we're going to apply this over top of all of the green. Now it is a little bit thin. That's intentional, so that we can get a nice smooth coat. And we just want to take this, as always, a bit steady. We can take this a fold in the skin at a time. But one thing to be mindful of is that when it gets to this bit round here, we do want to blend it into that green, or the sort of bony bit. underneath. But we can just take this one whole fold at a time, rather than trying to do it all at once. We can just get in there with our finger and just wipe it off if we accidentally overlap onto the bit that we've done that we don't want to blend. And another important thing to note is that the back of him, or at least the top part of him, is in fact going to be black. So it doesn't 100% matter if it's a bit scabby on the top. But what we do want is a nice smooth coat around this lower bit. Just concentrate your efforts along here for now. And once we've made it all the way around the full side, well, the lower part, we then obviously get to the sort of front part of the worm. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to start by the mandible, bring it along in a straight line, and then moving pretty quickly, wash the brush, and then across this straight line. Blend it into what we've just done. Like that. And then back up here. Down the other side. Wash the brush. Touch off the water. And then blend it. And then we can just move on with the rest of them. So with that done once, we're now going to do it again. With the exact same mix of roughly 4 parts Creed Camo to 2 parts Lahmian Medium mix. So with that second coat all applied, just whilst we're waiting for it to be fully dry, what we're going to do next is we're going to take some Magos Purple and we're going to apply this over top of the Briar Queen chill bits. And so with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Guilliman Flesh, and we're going to apply this over top of the maw of the Gatherblight, and we're also going to apply this over top of the little bit of turned back skin, which is draped across the back of him. So with that Guilliman Flesh all applied, what we're now going to do is we're going to do the difficult bit. But it is the important bit. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take some Black Legion, and over the top of his back we're going to be applying some markings and then also colouring in the rest of the back. So what we'll do is we'll just start here around this kind of around the head. So what we do is we take the Black Legion and we want to start by just adding basically just these little tiny spaced out markings all the way along the body. Like so. Now I'd recommend following the box art along for this bit. As best you can. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect. That's basically what I'm trying to do here. So with that done all the way along the length of the worm, like so, looks pretty cool. However, what we're going to do next is we're going to take some Sigvald Burgundy, because we're waiting for it to be fully dry, and we're going to apply this inside this kind of lower part of the mouth, or rather inner part I should say. And so with that now done, we're not quite out of the woods yet, because what we need to do now is we need to add a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Lamia Medium and Poxwalker over top of all the green and all the black that we've just done. This is going to tie the whole thing together quite nicely, as well as add just a little bit of extra depth. But the reason I say we're not quite out of the woods yet is this is going to be one of those things where, because we got it nice and runny, like that 1-to-1 mix, we just want to be careful not to over apply it. So if we apply too much, it'll pool up in a way that we don't want it to. You just want to be reasonably careful. just like this. So with that all done, we now once again hop back to some Black Legion, and what we're going to do here is we're going to use this to paint in all of the teeth and spikes. And so with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take two colours, Space Wolves Grey and Black Templar. I'm going to apply this over the top of our Nurgling. So we're going to start with the Space Wolves Grey. I'm going to apply this over the top of the entirety of the Nurgling. Like that. Then we wash the brush, grab a little Black Templar, and just over the tips of his little antlers, we're just going to apply this. Like so. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other one. And so with those Nurglings now coloured in, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Carroburg Crimson, and we're going to apply this over top of the inside of the mouth. With that Carroburg Crimson all applied, it's now time to move on. And we're going to move on to the platform that Festus is riding. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with some Snakebite Leather. And we're going to apply this over top of all of this hanging cloth. And after that Snakebite Leather has been applied, we're then going to take some Wildwood and we're going to apply this over top of all of the wood. And with that Wildwood all applied, what we're going to do is we're going to take two colours, Guilliman Flesh and Flesh Terror's Red. And we're going to apply this over the top of these long strips of fabric. So we're going to start with the Guilliman Flesh. And we're going to apply this like so. Onto around about there. Then we wash the brush. Grab some Flesh Terror's Red. And we just take over. Like that. And then we wash the brush. Grab a bit of Guilliman Flesh. And use this to soften the transition between the two. And so with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Drag Yellow and we're going to apply this over the top of all the goop in this cauldron. And with that Drag Yellow all applied, we then take some Sigvald Brown. I'm going to apply this over top of the straps and the strings over here on this bar. And then next up what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down iron warriors and we're going to apply this over top of all of the kind of frame and over the top of the cauldron. And so with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some striking scorpion green and we're going to apply this over the top of the bottom halves of these three bottles here, 1, 2 and 3. And so for the other two bottles, we then take a little bit of Drag Yellow and we apply this over the top of their bottom halves. So with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Pterodon turquoise and we're going to apply this over the parts of the bottles that we haven't applied any colours on. So with that Pterodon turquoise applied, we're now going to take a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Lamy medium and black Templar. We're going to apply this over the top of the cauldron, but what we're also going to do is we're going to apply this as a shade over the top of the Pterodon turquoise in all the bottles. And with that black Templar applied, we then take some Poxwalker and we apply this over top of the striking scorpion green. And so with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to shade the rest of the silver. I'm going to use two colours to do this. And these are going to be Agrax Earthshade and Gore-Grunter Fur. So what we do is we start by applying a nice big, basically dollop of Agrax Earthshade over the top. And then what we do is take a bit of Gore-Grunter Fur and just slap this in there as well. And with that done, we're then going to take some Agrax Earthshade and we're going to apply this over top of all this large cloth, like that, and we're going to apply this over top of the wood as well, just to kind of lock in the flavour, just bring the colour down just a little bit. And there's these little drips on the underside of the palanquin or throne or whatever it is. We're also going to apply it over the top of that as well. So, with those shades applied, it's now time to work on the main man himself, Festus the Leechlord. And, well, this looks really complicated, but it's actually not that bad. So, we're going to jump in and start doing that. So, the colour we're going to be using first is Mortarian Grime. And we're going to apply this over the top of all of Festus's skin. Now, there might be a bit of back and forth between colours for Festus, so bear with, but he does have a lot of things going on, so it's important to just take it steadily, a section at a time and a colour at a time, so as not to be driven mad. Whilst we wait for all that Mortarian Grime to dry, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Sigvald Burgundy and we're going to apply this over top of all of Festus's robe. And it's a really interesting colour, this one, because it's a really, really dark burgundy. So with that Sigvald Burgundy all applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to take a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Larmian Medium and a Thonian Camo shade. We're going to apply this over top of Festus and his skin. And so with that now done, we're going to take some Black Templar and we're going to apply this over the top of the robe. So with that Black Templar now applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Carroburg Crimson and we're going to use this around all these kind of warts and boils and things in Festus's skin. But what we're going to do is we're going to apply this in more of a stippling motion, try and get a bit of uneven coverage, and then we're going to wash the brush, touch off the water, and we're just going to blend it into the skin so we don't have any hard transition lines. And with that Caribou Crimson applied, around the tummy, what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing but with some Druchii Violet. And for our next port of call, we're going to take some Black Legion. And we're going to apply this over top of this little strip of fabric here across his leg. We're also going to apply this over top of the box on his back. And we're also going to apply this over the top of the loincloth of the unfortunate victim. And over the top of the little teeth on the leech as well. And with that Black Legion all applied, we're then going to take some Sigvald Brown. And we're going to apply this over top of all of the leather straps and belts and things. With that all done, we're then going to take some wildwood, and we're going to apply this over top of the sort of cross hatching in here. And we're going to apply this over the top of the two sort of antler shaped things coming off of this sort of assembly of stuff. And so for the rest of this stuff up here on the sort of fetish, what we're going to do is we're going to take two colours, Skeleton Horde and Militarum Green. We're just going to apply them at the same time. So we're going to apply Skeleton Horde like so. There we go. And then we take some Militarum Green. And just apply that at the same time over the top. Our next colour is going to be once again going back to Agrax Earthshade, and we're going to apply this over the top of this poor individual. And with that Agrax Earthshade applied, we then take some Magos Purple. We apply this over top of the intestine. And with that done, we then take some Griff Charger Grey. We apply this over top of all the strapping on the, well, let's just call him a blood bag. So our next port of call is to work on his staff. And for this we're going to use two colours, Wildwood and Militarum Green. And we're going to apply the Wildwood first. It's way too much on the brush. We're going to apply the Wildwood first over top of all of the staff. I'm just going to start down here. Like so. And then go over the top. like so. Flip it over. Do the other side. There we go. And then over the top of the head of the staff, we're going to apply the wildwood like so. Again, all the way up to around about there. Flip it over. Do the other side. Check the inside track. Yep, missed a little bit. There we go. And then, now comes in the Militarum green. What we do is we apply this wildwood going up to around about that corner. Like that. Same on the other side. Like so. Then we wash the brush. Grab some Militarum green. And then we apply this. Like so. Just blending the two. Like that. And with that all done, we now take some Griff Charger Grey. And we're going to apply this over the top of the leech. Whilst we're waiting for that leech to fully dry, we're going to work on the bottles in exactly the same way as we did on the throne. So we're using Striking Scorpion Green, then Pterodon Turquoise, then a little bit of Black Templar. With those bottles now all done, what we're going to do is we're going to take three colours: Carroburg Crimson, Druchii Violet, and Poxwalker. I'm going to use these over the top of the leech. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the Carroburg Crimson, and we're going to apply this around this end of the leech. Just like that sort of thing. Then wash the brush, touch off the water, just soften that transition just a little bit. Just like that. Then we take Poxwalker and we apply this over the top. Like that, and then once again wash the brush, get rid of the water, just ensure that we've got a nice smooth transition around there. Then what we do is we grab some Druchii Violet and we apply this over top of this end of the leech. Like so. Come round to around about there. Wash the brush. Smooth out the transition. Like that. And then just grab a tiny little bit more Poxwalker. And we apply this over this little bit. Like that. So next up, what we're going to do is take some skeleton horde. I'm going to apply this over top of the bones of our unfortunate victim. We've got a couple of little skulls as well, scattered around the model. And we're also going to apply this over as well as the little wicker thing around this gentleman's neck. And his ribs. And with that all done, we're then going to take some Briar Queen Chill. I'm going to apply this over top of this sort of growth stuff coming out of this poor individual's head. And so with that all done, we're then going to take some Guilliman Flesh. And we're going to apply this over what remains of this poor person's skin. And so with that all done, it's now time to take some thinned down Iron Warriors. And we're going to apply this over top of all of our remaining details. And we are going to add in a little bit of brass after this, but just for the sake of getting a good strong base coat on there for everything. We're just going to apply this Iron Warriors right now. And with all that Iron Warriors applied, we then take some thinned down Runelord brass, as mentioned, and we're going to apply this over top of this little dial up here. We're going to apply this over top of his arm rests. We've got this little bit of jewellery in here as well. We've got this bit around his neck. And we've got the teensy tiny little bit just here around the neck of our victim. So with that all done, it's time to add some shades, and we're going to start with some Carroburg Crimson, and we're going to use this around anywhere where something unfortunate has happened to our individual. So we're going to, for example, around here on the leg, and just like we did on Festus, we're going to wash the brush, get rid of the water, and we're just going to smooth out that transition just a little bit, like so. Next up, we're going to use a little bit of Poxwalker, And we're going to apply this over top of the growths around the head of the guy. Next up, we're going to take a little bit of Militarum green and we're going to apply this over top of the jewellery. So this is this bit up here, this bit up here, and the bit around his neck. Whilst we wait for the Militarum green to dry, we then use some Agrax Earthshade over the rest of the metallics. And then, so to get him battle ready, what we're going to do is going to take a little bit of Mantis Warriors green, not very much here, and what we're going to do is going to apply this over top of our Militarum green jewellery. But what we're also going to do is going to apply this over top of his eyes. And with all those shades applied, Festus the Leechlord is now what I would call a Warhipster battle ready. But what we're going to do now is going to take him to the next level. We're going to do this by adding some highlights. And we're going to start with some dry brushes. So the first of these is going to be some Strachan green. I'm going to use this to dry brush the Gatherblight. It's going to be nice and gentle here. Just wanting to catch the edges in all that fatty skin. With that Strachan green dry brush applied, we're then going to take some Nurgling green. I'm going to use this as a much gentler dry brush over the top, kind of like a spot highlight. Hitting pause on the Gatherblight just for a minute, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Karak stone. I'm going to use this to dry brush the Snakebite Leather, the Wildwood, and the Sigvald Brown on Festus and his lovely plank. So with those dry brushes all applied, what we're going to do now is going to move back to the Gatherblight, and we're going to take some thinned down Kislev Flesh, and over the top of all of this mess back here, we're effectively going to relayer this Kislev Flesh over the top of all of the raised areas. And we're also going to use this Kislev Flesh to highlight the inside of the mouth. So with that all done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down flayed one flesh. I'm going to use this to do quite a few things. So we're going to use this to do some really small little highlights on all this mess back here. So that sort of thing. We're also going to use this to add just a couple of little alternating highlights between the sort of green that we've got here on the front of the underside of the body. So for example, just like that sort of thing. And we're going to use this flayed one flesh to highlight Festus's skin. We'll start down here on his little toes. So with that flayed one flesh all applied, we've actually used it to highlight the top of these ribbons here and here as well. That's one thing I forgot to mention. But what we're going to do next is move on, and we're going to take some thinned down Slanesh Grey. I'm going to use this to effectively relayer all of our little pinky bits in the Gatherblight. And so for all of those little woundy bits that we've just done with the Slanesh Grey, we're going to take a teensy tiny little bit of Screaming Skull. I'm going to use this to add just a little spot highlight to them. Just like that sort of thing. But we'll also use the Screaming Skull at this point to highlight things like the bones. So with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take a small amount of some thinned down Lothern Blue. And we're going to go hunting for these little warts in the Gatherblight. And so with that all done, we're now going to take some thinned down Administratum Grey. We're going to use this to highlight all the teeth and spikes and stuff. So with that all done, we're now going to do something slightly different, because we've mostly finished the Gatherblight and a ton of other details. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Corax White. I'm going to use this on the bottles. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this to draw a little highlight going around where the two colours meet. Just like that sort of thing. And then what we do is take a really tiny amount of the Corax White and we add some little bubbles by adding some dots. And so with that all done, we're then going to take some thinned down Galvorback Red. I'm going to use this to highlight Festus's robe. With that Galvorback red all applied, we then take some thinned down Word Bearer's red. We use this to add some little spot highlights to his robe. And with that Word Bearer's red all applied, we then take a teensy tiny little bit of Kislev Flesh. And we use this to add just the tiniest little, sharpest little dot highlights to the extreme edges of the cloak. And so with that then done, what we do is we take some Carroburg Crimson, and in the recesses of the cloak we just add a little bit of Carroburg Crimson like this. So with that, it's now time to work on all the metallics. And well, what we're going to start off by doing is by taking some Scrag Brown on one of our DIY stippling brushes, and this one is a medium shade brush. And what we're going to do is we're going to just stipple some of this on to our, not all of our metallics, but in some areas, just to give it some rust. And with that Scrag Brown all applied, we're then going to take some Deathclaw Brown. I'm going to add just a little bit of extra stippling here and there, just to give it a little bit of variation. Still sticking with stippling, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of Baharoth Blue, and we're going to apply this as kind of like a sort of quite targeted stipple. And with that all done, we then take some Briar Queen Chill. I'm going to use this to add a little bit more kind of verdigris and stuff into stuff like the recesses. So with that all done, we've actually got another bit of stippling we can do with some Black Legion, which is to do some stippling around the hem of the cloth. So with that all done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down iron breaker. I'm going to use this to highlight some of the little bits of silver, like the belt buckles and stuff. And when it comes to like the wider, really kind of weathered silver and stuff, we can add little spot highlights here and there, should you wish to. Like that sort of thing. But what we'll also do with the iron breaker is we will highlight the brass as well. And so, believe it or not, to finish off Festus the Leechlord, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of blood for the blood god. And, well, it's not really a little bit here, but what we're going to do is we're going to apply this as like a little sort of stipple around some of these wounds. Just being really gentle. Like so. And we're going to do the same thing inside the sort of turn back skins. Like that. And in the wounds on this guy. And so with that base complete in the same style as everything from Darkwater, our Festus the Leechlord is now finished. And boy, is it a hell of a journey getting to this point. There's a lot of paint, a lot of steps, a lot of different things. But if you kind of want to not lose your sanity as you're painting it, I found that this was the best way to do it. And I really enjoyed it by the end of it. And I think he's absolutely breathtaking and stunning as a final product. Yes. If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel and you'd like to support me further, you absolutely can do so by heading to patreon.com/Warhipster, just like all of these wonderful, amazing people have done. And alternatively, you could become a YouTube channel member by clicking on the join button below, exactly like these fabulous folks have done scrolling up on the screen before you. There are so many of you out there that it really takes my breath away, and I cannot thank you enough for everything you do, as without you I wouldn't be able to keep making these Contrast Plus videos. And if you really like this video and you want to send me a little thanks, just click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.